Hey guys, this is a super cool podcast we have here today. Me and Cam got DickSlug on the line. He's very present in Reddit. I'm sure in some Discord and line chats as well. Uh, Most well known for diving deeper into the game than anyone else. Even probably the data miners. What he specializes in, at least from my point of view, was the mechanics of the game. What the stats mean, what the numbers mean, how they're calculated in the back end, and ways to utilize that information. So, we wanted to talk about min maxing, which is sort of the philosophy of getting the best out of one champion. But it's kind of just ended up being a friendly conversation between three guys. So just take it as you will, and hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, so
let's
I'm
go.
very excited about this.
Yeah, we've never had a three-way before.
Yeah. Three ways are my favorite for sure.
Okay, so for people who are listening, this is Cam and I have DickSlug on the line. He has done a lot of Reddit posts. That's what I'm most familiar with as far as his body of work. Very detail oriented. Knows a lot about the behind the scenes mechanics of how MCOC works. A lot of the equations people have come directly from him. But yeah, why don't you what's your story? How did you get started on the game?
I really just thought it'd be funny to see Spider-Man saying DickSlug. I didn't even know it was an online game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Marvel, looking for games. Had no idea what I was going to play. So.
Yeah, cool. But then what made you start diving so deep? Because even the data miners, I don't think get that deep.
I like to go deep.
Yeah,
He's very deep.
Yeah.
But so you just got curious? You just said, I'm hitting these opponents. They're dying slowly, but what exactly is going on? You just got curious?
Yeah, I've kind of always gotten to that point with games where if I get into them enough, I'll just get a little curious, and then if I'm not finding what I want, I kind of start to dive in a bit.
Right. Okay. So you maybe do some testing, and it wasn't enough. They wasn't getting enough information.
Huge pain in the ass to try to figure this out by actually testing. It's impossible. They don't give you nearly enough info.
Oh, Cam tries. He really does.
It's a lot of work.
Individual 400 hit fights. Cam's logged every single hit.
Yeah.
Time stamped them.
Yeah, I sat there leveling up level by level, writing down every single stat I could, reopening up all the stats, and trying to find the pattern that way. And massive pain in the ass.
Right. So you quote unquote got inside the belly of the beast and figured out how they calculate these things. So
I turned to mysticism. I just started reading tea leaves and figured it out that way.
Fair enough. So anyway, what we get, the result of a lot of your work is really useful. It shows us sort of how some of when Kabam implemented diminishing returns, that kind of turned a lot of things on its head, and it's really hard to calculate what an addition to crit rate will mean in real percentages and stuff like that. And that's kind of what we get from, at least that's the real value I get a lot on a day-to-day basis from that kind of work. But Cam goes way farther. Cam, you take some of those equations and you start doing theoretical damage calculations and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all estimates, and it's you see a given fight, and you start to think about what can be done in the fight, and how many hits are there, how many specials are there, and all these different stats, how they actually work with each other. You have characters who augment their attacks, characters who augment their crit rating, crit damage, how all of that can actually work in tandem to result in a fight that you see play out in an alliance war or alliance quest or in a quest. So it's super interesting to me to calculate all those things and to delve deep into them. But we had Mr. Slug here, and we want to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Well, min-maxing, and also we want to talk about how stats are actually calculated in the game. So after, as you mentioned, after diminishing returns, some stats are subject to it, some stats are not subject to it. Some stats, I don't know how they work.
Sometimes it feels arbitrary. It'd be nice to know if there's a system behind it all, you know? Cam, we actually did like 90 minutes, I think, of min-maxing, and we never published it.
We never published it because it was just rambling on, right?
It was nonsense. We were just talking about which. Send that to me. You want me to send it to you? Actually, we might as well, and you could get a feel for what we were trying to figure out. But actually, when going into that recording a while back, we were trying to shed some light on how to get the most out of one champion. You know, looking at their kit, seeing what they do, and knowing that, okay, I think that one of the biggest examples was Stark Spidey augments his attack. Attack masteries are not as useful for him than they would be on someone like Corvus, because of the way abilities interact with the attack stat, right? So that was kind of what we were trying to do. We're trying to give advice on how to build masteries and teams, but it was kind of getting really convoluted.
I think you're talking about something that I think it's the core of what Cam was bringing up earlier, is that, you know, we're getting into these numbers and we can turn the rating into percents, but even then you're really just trying to boil down what you should be doing to maximize your effectiveness there.
Yeah, totally.
And Cam started talking a little bit about something I've really been wanting to get into, is whether it's running Monte Carlos over the data or something, and just kind of really analyzing what way to go. You mentioned Stark Spidey, but I think Ghost Rider is a great one to talk about. Which direction? Do you go Fury first? Do you go Bleed first? Do you start to build up your combo so you can L1 and then Fury?
Yeah.
That type of thing really can have an effect. And then you answer the question that everybody just wants to know, is like, what do I do? They don't care about the numbers.
Yeah.
They just know, what do you do?
Yeah, that's kind of where that's always what I'm trying to figure out. I like the numbers, but I'm not.
What do you do is also what I was trying to figure out with the Carnage thing that I did. I remember doing this thing where, you know, you spam SP1, you spam SP2, how many of each buff you build up, and it was super fascinating to me, because, you know, you build up the Furies, you build up the crit ratings, you build up the crit damage, and then the SP2 and the SP1 have, you know, crit rating and crit damage built into them. So, you know, you wanna actually spam the right one at the right moment, and, you know, it all comes together at some point.
So is that true? Is that how that works? Like, does it matter when you apply the buffs on champs that build up buffs, like Heimdall and Carnage? And
I feel for Carnage it doesn't matter, because he, like, just there's a tangent here. For him it doesn't really matter, because he builds them up so fast. But for Heimdall, I think it matters, because he's just slow all around.
It's sort of a forgetting the term here, but you know, you're looking up to accelerate a lot, and if you accelerate earlier, you might get to the same kind of damage output, but if you accelerate faster to that and get to it sooner, even though you might have that long tail to get to the very last bit of damage, that's important to know.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. So what's so fascinating about Ghost Rider?
It's really unintuitive, and there's so many different things about how much life the opponent has, whether they're even going to make it to your L3.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was he's Blade's backpack there, so we've kind of all got him. I'll use him relatively frequently.
Yeah, he is very common. Not a lot of people rank him to 565 though. It's one of those things. They like him for the synergy, but he is dang useful. He's one of the best. He's one of my favorite 4-stars. But so, what you mentioned, Monte Carlo simulations. I know what those are. That's where you run thousands of simulations at once, and you sort of read the data. What was the average sort of thing?
And Monte Carlos are not necessarily always the best way to figure this out. Sometimes you can just do the math on the bounds, rather than try to figure out. Monte Carlo is about running random simulations, and then you get the average. But that idea of just being able to understand all of the possibilities under all of the different, random factors that it might encounter, and what is your best bet? That gets really crazy when you start to talk about what is your best bet as far as your skill level. Do you start to do things because you know you can react in time, or do you do things because that is a safe way to do it?
Do you think Kabam can run Monte Carlo simulations with their infrastructure? Do you think they do that? Or like if you just had to guess?
I mean, can they run the game? I mean,
is that all it is? Is that it can just run the game and speed it up?
No. I was being sarcastic about.
Okay. Whoosh, whoosh.
I mean, they have what they need to as far as the data. I don't think that they've gotten anywhere near considering that option. I mean, you look at the way that new champions come out. I feel like they're just kind of throwing it against the wall and hoping it's not too overpowered. Maybe it is. Maybe it's in the meta. It doesn't feel like they have an idea. This give everybody unstoppable is the best answer they've found. And then you give somebody an immunity, and then you give somebody an immunity to the immunity, and it's insane.
Yeah, it does feel very rock, paper, scissors, right? I mean, and sometimes
those are some big rocks and big papers and big scissors, man.
Just the wording sometimes is so it just feels lazy to me, to be quite honest. Like it's occasionally a champion will get released and it says this counters this effect, and then the next champion to be countered, it says, okay, so that effect is happening, but it cannot be countered by counters. It's just like, what? Get out of here. Be more creative, that you have in 2 months you can, or what is it? They have 2 weeks really, their build time. But still, isn't the development time months? They said that in interviews before. They've got multiple teams working on these, so they stagger them. There's time.
Those teams are one-upping each other with who's countering who from the from the look of it.
You know what? Do you think?
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Did that just pop into your head now? Because that does feel potentially like a real thing that might happen. I can see that definitely happening. Team A is like, oh yeah, maybe some guys just really like making defenders, and other guys just really like making perfect keys to those locks.
Right.
I wonder how much freedom they have in that capacity.
There's leading into that, there's something I sort of noticed really early on when I was diving into this about the game in general, where I think they sort of stumbled upon this secret sauce of, it was when I started playing it at first, I thought it was one of those card games that we have where it's like, you just kind of hit the screen and you attack, and if you have enough hit points, you're going to live, and maybe you can block a little bit.
Yeah.
But intercepting, there's nothing kind of intentional about that built in. That was just something that happened. It's Unity has these animations that run, and they just kind of get interrupted, and they change what the animation they're on and switch to another one and start, reacting to being hit, and that takes them out of the attack. So it was that to me is like the best part about this game, is that the things you're doing are not so, your skill can be used, but I don't think they intended that. So these things like unstoppable and unblockable and all of that just feel like they don't know how to work with this system that they randomly got.
So you said Unity. Is that what is that?
So that's a framework for writing games that work on both, sort of work on Android, but work on Android and iPhone. There's no reason that and I'm sure they are on their machines, that it also runs on Windows. And they could port it to a web page even potentially. So Unity is something that lets you write one set of code that works on all these different frameworks.
Okay. So it's named well. So is it so specific as to Unity is meant for a 1v1 arcade style game, or is it deeper than that?
I mean, probably a good more than half of the games you'll find on in the App Store, if it's both in Android and iPhone, was probably Unity.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's just a really
massive.
Low level, or should I say, it's like a framework for developing websites. Like you would just use PHP. Is that it? Is it like a language?
I mean, it layers on top of .NET, so C#.
Okay.
But then it allows you. It's more. I think Unity 3D is actually what it's called. But anything that has any sort of 3D, this is the way to go.
So practically every game, and tons of people.
Unreal Engine is another type of thing that's very much like this. So if you hear, oh, this was made with Unreal Engine, similar idea. This was made with Unity.
Okay, so I guess we can assume that Unity's solid. Like it's a very good framework, and you can build a perfect game on it, but you have to be very familiar with it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. But that's good that they chose a framework that's considered, or at least widely used.
Yes,
The potential's there. And they didn't make a bad game.
No,
it's a great game. It's just we see them kind of tripping and stumbling. Times.
More than anything, I as much as I rally against or rail against them occasionally. I want to help them more than anything. Like I want a good game here, and it is a good game, and I just want it to be amazing and better.
Have you sent in your resume?
No, I couldn't afford to work there. I spent too much.
Fair enough. Yeah, man, that's super interesting. So I didn't realize this was all built on something called Unity. But maybe we're getting a little. It's too deep for most people. But I just find that interesting that there are a bunch of levers that are basically being pulled by MCOC in this framework, and that's how everything happens, right? Is that basically it? Okay. Yep. Wow. Okay. So how does that relate to min-maxing? Cam, how does that relate?
Let's talk about some stats.
You were following that, right? How does that relate?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, Unity is just a platform for the development of the game, but I feel min-maxing goes back a lot to 12.0 and what they did then, and it's just when they announced diminishing returns, they also announced that some things are subject to it, some things aren't subject to it. I think so far the things that I've found that are subject to it heavily are crit rating, crit damage, critical resistance, and I think that's about it. Weakness sometimes.
We were actually wondering about that in our previous talk.
Yeah.
Weakness is just a version of Fury.
But is it not subject to diminishing returns?
So it's attack. So
it works
Fury
off
is not.
of
Attack modification is not.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it works off of base attack.
Correct.
That's why weakness doesn't do anything. Or, I mean, that's why you don't notice the effect. If you say you put 100% weakness on an Alliance War opponent, it's still gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So when Cam says they're subject to diminishing returns, does that mean, is there one diminishing returns equation that applies to everything, or do they individualize these?
So it's one equation. The crit damage is they act like it's, I believe, 1/5 of the value. So it's a slightly different curve, but it's the same formula. Their implementation of diminishing returns is vastly different than like a gaming standard version. It's just sort of they threw one attempted formula at it, looked at it, said, good enough, that's diminishing returns, and didn't really consider how the attributes are actually used. I think armor is a really good one to talk about, where obviously you don't want to have a game where somebody can get 100% armor. That's going to make it worthless. Uh-huh. But if you talk about something like crit damage, where if you crit, the amount of damage you apply, well, yeah, if you double your damage, that's reasonable, 100% there. And they capped that at, I want to say something like 500%. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense and to have like a hard cap on that for that reason. You can definitely apply a diminishing returns, but that's not thinking about the percent damage of the opponent's hit points that you're doing. It's a different factor.
Interesting.
So yeah, the cap actually makes it so that it plateaus eventually, right? So you can add armor, you can add crit rating and crit damage rating, and eventually it will just get to a level where it's not as effective anymore.
So is it a useful exercise to apply unlimited stats to a champion and see what happens? Is that what they're doing? I don't understand. So every single stat has a cap because of diminishing returns?
No. Anything that's running through the crit rating to percentage is.
Oh, okay.
The crit rating to percentage is the only thing I've seen that is a diminishing returns effect. Short of Venom the Duck's buffs. But...
That's a true diminishing returns effect.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Kinda. Jesus. It's hard. It's very difficult. Okay, so what is an example? What you don't have to say the exact formula, but what is an example of a diminishing returns equation?
What did I had it around here a minute ago? The kind of important. So there's the crit rating. I believe it's divided by like 1,500, and then, or the number of the crit is divided by that crit plus 1,500 or something like that. I don't have it here. Hold on a second.
Crit damage then.
Okay, so I've got a whole formula posted somewhere. I don't have it up right now, but if we look at something like in a 100 opponent challenger rating, and if you have a crit rate of 1,000, you're going to get a 33% chance to crit.
Okay.
If your crit rate is 1,500, so that is 50% more than that 33%, or sorry, than the 1,000, you have a 42.9% chance to crit. So a bunch of stupid numbers, but if you look at that 33 and you take 50% more, you should be around 148, and instead we're at 43. Well,
right. Okay. So
sorry,
it just
should be at 48.
So every incremental change to the number gives you a less and less benefit for the stat as a percent basis, and percent's how we visualize it. Or how it
and percent
manifests.
is also how we we see it in game too.
Right.
We don't really see flat numbers in game because what does 1,000 crit rating really mean? Well, as he said, as Dick said, it translates to 33% crit rating. But I find this like really interesting how some of these stats, when you go into them, at some point they're just no longer actually subject to diminishing returns. Like there's a stage in the curve for crit rating where it's just a linear curve going up, as all curves that plateau do. So early on, it's very beneficial to get more crit rating, as you said, as you really feel with champs like Aegon, who you gain crit rating as your combo goes up, and it's really noticeable at the very start. I think Aegon is a very good example of diminishing returns and how those impact the actual gameplay, because once you approach 1,000 hits, your crit damage is just as high as it can go, right? It's probably the highest in the game. So after 1,000 hits, then you're really not going to be hitting infinitely hard. You're going to be hitting 10k mediums and 8k light attacks, and that's it.
To give you an idea, if you had a 5,000 crit rating for damage, that it would be a 400% damage. If you have a 50,000, that's 530%. If you have 500,000, it's 548%. So it's just, you've added on incredible numbers and it's really not doing anything.
So, okay, so infinite would be 550, like you said.
Yep.
That's the cap. And is that's part of the equation somehow? It works out.
So the
way they've designed
there's
it.
A tuning variable that they have, and I believe it's 1,500, and I forget how that exactly works out, where the curve is the same for all of them. except for crit rating, which just multiplies what the curve is. So if we talk about crit, that caps out at, that does cap out at 100%. Is that right?
It must.
Right. So,
it can't go higher.
Right. So crit caps out at 100%. Crit damage is a little bit different because if you have a 0 crit damage rating, you get 50% extra damage on top of your normal hit.
Right, because a critical hit should do some extra damage no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then if you have infinite, it's 550. That's 500% more. So it's rather than being the 100% cap of crit, which it eventually will get to if you have an infinite, crit damage instead goes to 500% plus the 50% base.
Okay.
So that's 550.
And so do physical resistance, energy resistance, those kind of things, they work on a similar to the crit rating one where it maxes at 100%?
So I'll talk in a minute about crit and energy resistance and how they work with armor. But the interesting thing to me about this and the really, again, lazy way of doing it is if you talk about something like block proficiency and block penetration. Yeah. You'd think that if you have a 5,000 block proficiency and someone has a 4,000 block penetration, that'd probably be like you have 1,000 block proficiency, correct?
Yeah, you would guess, yeah.
You would. But you don't. You get, they both run through that same formula first. So if your block proficiency of 5,000 comes out to, I don't know, what does that actually come out to? 5,000 comes out to a 71% efficiency. Well, their 4,500 block penetration, or 4,000 block penetration is 66%. So your armor is not your block is not the 33% you'd get with 1,000. It's instead 8%. It's something awful. So this doesn't allow them to actually scale. One of the things they said that they were going to do with this is that as numbers get higher and higher, the way they cancel each other out just means that you end up with zeros across the board.
Interesting. So, okay, so you would have expected 1,000 block proficiency with that, but the block penetration worked on top of the number that block penetration or block proficiency finalized at. Is that correct?
So, yep. And it would act like you have like 150 block proficiency instead of the 1,000 you should have.
Oh, right.
If you prepared.
So like once we have the Titans, the ultimate block, the unstoppable object and unmovable rock, or God, mess that one up. But you know what I mean? So they do cancel each other out too much. So as in they don't actually have an infinite battle. It does sort of end quickly.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense. So is there an order of operations? Does one stat get? Couldn't you apply that in the reverse? Like this champion should be penetrating the block, but my block penetration is so high that, or I guess not.
And I would hope that
you know what I'm getting at is that do certain things get calculated first?
That's sort of the problem is that the rating happens and then they apply to each other.
Interesting. Yeah, they did say there was a big fuss about the unscalability of the previous system. What do you think? What did you think about the previous system? It was kind of strange, right?
It was straightforward. They could have just done something that said that they could have just applied an actual diminishing returns. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were getting synergy teams that were plus 5% crit rate. They could just say that, the more crit rating synergies you have, they lose 20. Let's bet them the ducat. They each lose 20% efficiency.
Right. Yes.
So, would have been incredibly simple for everyone to understand, and it would have had a better effect.
Yeah, it would have been so much easier to understand. It was absolutely impossible to understand when they made the switch. Those numbers mean nothing. They still mean almost nothing. I still switch over to the percent tab. But okay, so once you run everything through the calculator, that percent tab, and then we have the percent numbers, that's where you actually get to start using the knowledge of how these things are calculated to help you play better with individual champions.
Yep. So they did that 12.0. They did all these things to really, in my opinion, it looks like they tried to make it confusing rather than actually accomplish the things they said they set out to. And I really do hate conspiracy theorying around Kabam. People have some absurd theories, and I think they just kind of hurt us when we talk about that. But it's really hard when I'm looking at some of these numbers to understand why they would have implemented this system the way they did. And then you start seeing new synergies coming in that they just said, fuck it, percents again.
Yeah. Synergies and notes.
It was they're like
characters, like the champion is just region percentage based, which is really funny.
Yeah, that they do that. I think sometimes they don't know how to use their own system. Do you know
I don't think they understand rating either.
A lot of time there's an expression saying that you're smart, you know enough to be dangerous, and maybe somebody designed that system who maybe doesn't even work there anymore. But they had a really good idea and executed poorly, and now they're kind of stuck with us unless they want to rework the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Could have been, could be fairly innocent for the current staff,
and kind of along those lines, I've been trying to get a little bit more detailed information out there about this, but I'm researching a line where I've noticed something very peculiar about ratings we see in champion stats. So if you pick somebody like Iron Man Infinity War and you look at his armor per, what do they call it, molecular armor stack, that rating number, if you run it through the calculation for that Iron Man's challenger rating, it comes out to the exact same percent for the 1-star at whatever rank that is the same challenger rating as the 2-star, and every single time you rank them up, the percentage stays constant.
So the armor rating goes down with every single rank up?
So the armor rating that you'll see, does it go down in this case? Let me...
for an equivalent matchup.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, so the interesting thing about this, when you talk about rating and matchups, is that you never compare your challenger rating. So your 6-star champion against their 6-star champion, you're not on even footing. This is your, what was your missaid immovable block thing where...
Unstoppable force, immovable object. There it is.
There you go. But it's that same problem where as we get to the 50-star champions, they're all going to have effective 0 armor because they just cancel each other out.
Right.
They don't actually check challenger ratings against each other and say, oh, there's no discrepancy, don't screw up the equation. They just say, yeah, they're both gigantic, so make all percentages really low.
You're kidding. They don't check the discrepancy.
Right.
Oh, I always thought, okay. Wow.
So as we get higher and higher, crits will just start to disappear. Armor disappears, block disappears.
Really? A 50-star champion with the equivalent stat increase would not be critting against a similar
correct
champion.
And neither would them or you.
Neither would.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like a bombshell.
That's crazy.
Well, I guess we're not going to see 50 stars.
Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully that means they're done. That's the funny
thing about, they were like, we did this so that we could scale. And it's like, wait, you did this and now you can't scale. And they're never going to get to 50-star. But either way, it was just,
right.
It felt really not what it was there for.
Okay, wow, that is so because the challenger rating augments the stats, including crit resistance. That's basically the stat you're saying, right? Crit resistance would go up because of the challenger rating? Or sorry.
So everything just kind of normalizes down to 0. And most of these resistance or block penetration or armor penetration, those are usually lower anyway. They haven't been going crazy. I'm very scared of what they're going to do with like Yondu and if they actually had block penetration really become a thing. But your actual base stats of your champion, your crit rate, your armor, your block proficiency, those will just degrade as we get higher and higher ratings, even though everybody's like, oh, great, we're on this. They have this huge rating because it's a high number champion. The challenger rating of the opponent, even though they're equal, will destroy that.
So it's the opponent's challenger rating that affects your stats.
That's correct.
Not your challenger rating versus them.
Correct.
Wow, that is crazy. And that also means that they could just code like a boss with a high challenger rating.
And they don't show that to us.
Yeah, and render you useless.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Does it have any consequences in the way the game is right now?
Despite all my vamping there, challenger rating really doesn't affect things very heavily.
Okay.
It was just it's more about the way they kind of proposed it to us, and it felt more like just a veil they threw over everything because people were figuring too much out, and they want to start nerfing Scarlet Witch or something, and well, one way to do it is to make it so people don't understand what happens, and then
Right.
people will. You could say, yeah, it feels like Scarlet Witch is critting less, and you'd have no way of knowing if that was 20% or 18% because unless you're Cam and you're writing down an entire battle, you'd never see the number.
Good thing we have Cam. Oh,
okay. Writing down the entire fights is also super fun. You take what I usually do for those kind of write-ups is take micro rotations of every character. Like take a rotation of Corvus where he is, landing X number of hits to get to SP2, then landing the SP2, then getting an X amount of power back with the power boost. So how that augments with the damage from the SP2, and then you just go from there. You just go nuts from there. Most of it is just theoretical. Like I like the theoretical aspect of it because that was my laundry. I like the theoretical. I like the theoretical aspect of it because no two fights are exactly the same. You sometimes mess up. You sometimes don't get an opening. Sometimes the AI is just awful. They don't give you an opening, and what I actually really appreciate when writing those is how attack rating is not subject to any sort of calculations. You get an extra amount of attack, you're getting that extra amount of attack, so you're good to go from there. At the same time, it's hard, like when writing those and not having access to the code of the game, it's harder for me to actually judge power rate, and because different characters have a different like power gain rate or mana gain. It's like when I'm trying to theoretically find out what a DPS of a character is, it would be helpful to have that information available in the game, but it's not really there. Setting all those aside, I like to talk about masteries and how we are seeing, like with Ghost, Corvus, characters like that who get so much of a certain effect, get so much of a certain stat, like crit rate and crit damage. How can we boost those characters who are already super meta to an even higher level? Because I've seen like mastery builds when they completely negate precision just to go all ghost. They negate precision, they full on max recoil.
They don't even need cruelty though, do they?
They do, because at the start of the fight, she doesn't really have any form of crit damage augmentation. But once you get the fight going, it really doesn't. They really don't need the cruelty either, because they just refresh with the SP2. It's really fascinating to me how certain few characters in the game are actually much better with off the normal mastery builds. You put a no precision mastery build in arena, and you're gonna have an awful time because you're never gonna crit. And speaking of Ghost, you don't really want willpower with her either, because you're not healing anyways. You're just getting rid of your debuffs right away. So those are kind of all interesting topics to me of like how you can min max, and how you can, and as DickSlug said himself, how you can, with Ghost Rider, how you can play him to get the best result. It's all super interesting to me. But other than that, I think this game is great for allowing us to do like analysis like this, do analysis of fights, and going through every hit of a fight and see what's happening there, and so experimentally and theoretically, it's all really good.
So is that like something you can? Is there like a strategy that you could look at champions and sort of develop a game plan with? For example, I'm gonna rank up my brand new Captain Marvel, and let's just go with the old one. She doesn't have anything to boost her crit rate. So is that sort of how you look at it, and you just say, okay, I'm gonna need crit rate masteries. I'm gonna need, recoil maybe. Like, is there maybe some guidelines for just looking at champions and deciding how to min-max them?
I'm sure Cam has some pretty good opinions on that. And
I'd say look at the information of the characters you got. Like, if the character gets additional attack rating, that is, stacking on top of everything else, and if that additional attack rating is significant, like Hyperion, like Star-Lord, like Stark Spidey,
Yeah,
you probably don't want those characters to suffer from suicides, right? Because that attack rating coming from suicides isn't gonna multiply with whatever attack rating they're getting from their own abilities. But when you look at a character like Quake, who doesn't get any attack rating, but also doesn't really hit the opponent, right? A character like that doesn't really benefit from crit rating or crit damage. So a character like that, you only want attack rating for. A character like Stark Spidey doesn't really need attack rating
because he gains his own attack rating.
Yeah,
and
like Stark Spidey only needs crit damage rating. That's the only stat he doesn't get.
So that would only that's true because of the fact that attack applies to your base attack. Attack improvements apply to your base attack and not after masteries. Is that right? So if Stark Spidey's number per taunt, if his attack increase per taunt was based off of his masteries as well, then it would be a big deal, right? If it's scaled.
Right. That's so all of these things that you talk about, they're really going off of base attack. So there are things that go off of your current attack, and that's so if you look at something like Quake, where she has that when you hold heavy, the damage she does is, I think it's 11.7% of whatever her attack is at the time. And that attack stat, when you see it in her character sheet, is shown to you as her base attack. So even if you get masteries and you look at her attack that they show you there, the character information will still be 11.7% of the base. But when you play with her, the masteries still apply. Those masteries, though, are applied to, they're added together. Masteries, boosts, synergies, all of them, and then applied to the base and used. When you talk about something like Assassin, or so I haven't dug in too much on the masteries, but there's some oddities about how your attack stat is not changed by Assassin. It's kind of just applied when you hit. So that was the whole thing that Dave brought up about, Assassin's not working. But it was, but it's only when you actually physically hit them was it applied.
Right. So that's just it must be a way they coded, or maybe the way they, just the way they coded attack to work in general.
And it happens kind of based on a lot of the actual effects that happen. So it's something like what was the other one we were looking at there? There's someone who has an effect that when you do your SP2, it applies something, but it doesn't apply as part of the hit. It applies the frame after the hit. And so the actual hit itself, you had your boost from Assassin, and then the frame afterwards, you do not anymore. That was Domino's. Yeah.
Oh, was it the bleed?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so Cam, you're saying just basically look for what the Masteries are doing and try and augment your champion based on that. But you have to keep in mind you have a teams, 5 champions. You have to balance it. But then you can get into really interesting team builds, suicide
People
teams.
Don't play 5 champions. Everybody plays their 1.
Oh, yeah, some people. Yeah, it's true though. That's a problem sometimes, I think. Yeah. I was wondering if you had any insight onto prestige with your explorations.
Yeah. So what is it? Mutamat has been collecting the prestige there. There's are you looking really for the difference between like a hero rating and prestige, or you just mean
the PI and prestige, and then how is that number determined?
So there's a kind of a base that you see when you talk about the actual your character's prestige. So the top 5 champions won, all of that. So there's that base for the champion, and then every one of the buffs have so your champion has kind of, be a little vague about this, but they have kind of two numbers that are used for your prestige value. And then any given buff applies to one number or the other. And so those two numbers are just kind of added together. But certain buffs enhance that first number, and the other ones enhance the second number, and it's enhancing them as a kind of a factor. So that's the reason why you see something like getting you get the attack boost one, and some champions get more PI from that, and other ones do not. It's because that attack boost is applying to that first number, but not the second. So champions whose PI was built from the first one instead of the second one see that effect more.
So is PI a built number, or is that a base decision that they make when they create the champion?
So I don't know if they come up with one number. I haven't really looked at this, and then apply it at each of the ranks and
SIG levels.
Yeah, stars. And so the SIG level actually applies to those two base numbers.
Okay. So is this it's interesting because the SIG levels scale very differently. Even the PI jumps, it seems, scale differently between SIG levels. And is that because each SIG level is applying a different buff, and those buffs are added to those numbers, as you're saying?
So the SIG levels themselves should be relatively consistent as you go up. I guess I'd have to take a little bit of a deeper look myself here, but if you were, say, looking at one rank champion versus another, the scale might appear differently.
Oh, okay. That is strange.
I'm still a little hazy on all of that. There's a lot of little threads of information I've been trying to run down lately, and I really have been trying to get this coordinated to something, because you started this off by saying, my body of work was on Reddit, and that is a horrible body to have. So that's somewhere a little bit nicer.
What do you think? How do you feel about the MCC subreddit? I've been on and off it since I started. Love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
Actually, I hate it more than I love it. But it has its moments.
That's my feeling as well.
Yeah.
The memes there now are just so low effort.
It's mostly memes. I mean, that's the thing. I have to say, back when I first joined the subreddit, it was mostly crystal openings. I kind of miss it.
That hurts.
The crystal openings were boring, but they were just kind of something to glance at.
I'd love to take a picture of, look at this coin I flipped.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's just not a lot. Cam tried to start a theory crafting thread that was.
That was nice.
We tried. I mean, we really did not give it 100% effort. We should have kept going.
Story of my life. I'm with you there.
Yeah, we stopped even. I mean, it would have just been so simple to just post our podcast links every 2 weeks, and we didn't even do that.
Right.
Yeah. And if we go back and back post, it just looks lazy. Oh man.
The only kind of nice thing about it to me is that it's a persistent place, and the line chats are terrible too, in my opinion. There's just a lot of egos in them, and
yeah.
The Discord ones, you're a little bit better, but again, it's not really persistent. Anything you put out there is just gonna get lost.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's kind of a weird community. I think also it's different because I don't know how many other game. I think the MCC community is quite old, age-wise.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, but also every game has young gamers too, so it's just a range from 8 years old to 60 probably. And it's just that's just not normal. It creates some interesting interactions, I guess, socially.
I'm not really one to talk about the maturity level with my name choice there, but my mom is very proud of me.
I wanted to make a point of, I saw the stream floating around this past week of Dave, where he was pointing out how, suicides and boosts and synergies don't really do much for Stark Spidey's attack, and people were like, "There's something fishy going on here," and a lot of times there is something fishy going on in MCOC, but I'd say that's the thin line we need to tiptoe, because when there's something like that, when there's a stat like that, and when we have a stat like attack rating, and it's not subject to a lot of things that a lot of percentage based and calculation based things that other parts of the game are subject to, I think it's better to leave them as they are, because if attack rating, for example, was subject to diminishing returns, or was subject to a percentage based multiplying, it would basically make characters like Star-Lord and Dark Spidey just completely useless, because with every poise they get, or with every fury they get, they just hit less and less harder.
Well, each incremental increase would be worth less.
It would get marginally worse every time. But I wanna also talk about how all of these ideas about stat manipulation and theory crafting on characters and damage output is brought about, because it's not a thing that this is a huge game. Like, this is a massive game, and we have so many different characters, and a lot of people play different characters. I wouldn't say everyone, because a lot of people also play the same characters. It's important to look at what you got, look at the characters that you got, and look at what stats they get. Like, I was looking at this video by this guy who 565 his Night Thrasher, and it was really awesome. But it brought this to my mind that Night Thrasher, it gets so much crit rating from all of his debuffs. So in a video like that, if you want to really maximize his damage output, you probably shouldn't really invest in crit rating masteries. You probably should invest in some other masteries. It's just interesting for me to think about that kind of stuff, because some of the niche characters like Heimdall, like Night Thrasher, like Bishop, I think those kind of characters would shine a lot more if people invested in them, and if people actually read into their abilities and altered their setups based on them. I know it's probably not worth it because we live in a time where meta is everything, and if people, like characters who hit for 1,000 damage on every hit, they're just king.
You're absolutely right. That's you watch any of the YouTubers, and their chat is just full of people asking with no context, should I rank up Ghost or Stark Spidey? It's right. That. And, it goes back to how many hits does it take to kill Winter Soldier? And it doesn't really understand a lot about how you even play the game. And even the analysis that we're talking about is probably, we limit it to the scope of a fight, and the ability to be as versatile of a champion, or really the team that you have, being able to run the path you're on and cost you as few of units as possible is really the goal there. It's not about how hard you hit.
Right. I mean, your goal can also change. I mean, sometimes people say, I need to save time. I don't want to. I don't want to go. King Groot would be a great champion if we all had unlimited time. I think the timers Kabam puts in. What do you guys think of the timers in Alliance War and Alliance Quest? I think it negates a lot of the diversity.
It's lazy.
Because it forces damage to be so important, and coincidentally, damage is the one thing that's not subject to the diminishing returns, like we're saying. So, yeah, it's lazy. Yeah, I mean, I agree. And it just completely destroys so many champions.
I can understand that maybe early on they were worried about you get into a fight and you pause, and your whole alliance is waiting on you to get that, and there's the boss or something locked down.
Yeah.
But what they've done with the 3 minutes and the way timeouts work is not the right answer.
Just don't totally. I think they don't need to allow pause on in AQ and AW?
I think Pause has we're playing I mean, as much as we think it's an online game, it's a single player game at any given time.
Yeah, that's true.
And I really like the Pause because I can, get up and flush. So that's nice.
It's true, but you only have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
you better go fast.
It is a nice thing. You got to go to answer the door or something like that.
No, I use it all the time. I hate it because I hear a lot of people complain that, oh yes, it sucks to measure champions based off Winter Soldier, and I mean it is a very valuable metric because damage is so important, and that damage is important because of the timer, because of the enrage timer in Labyrinth. I mean, there's just timers everywhere. There's nodes like Aspect of War where after a certain amount of time they're unblockable. So when someone says, they kill Winter Soldier in X hits, I mean, that means something. That's important. And it's only important artificially.
Right.
Which is the frustrating part. That's why, I mean, for me, I almost exclusively base my decision of champions on the art. Who do I like to look at, because any other thing is very frustrating to me, because when once you say that damage is the most important thing and the time to kill is the most important and survivability a little bit along with that, there really is when someone says, should I rank up Ghost or Stark Spidey, there is a correct answer. And you know what I mean? If you ran your simulations like you were saying, somebody would come out on top, or on average would come out on top in more situations than others,
I mean, I cringe at there is a correct answer because it's always context, but I think you knew that.
Right, but let's just say you I mean, this would be a monumental effort, but you did simulations on across the board, right, for every champion in all fights across all game modes.
No, you're not wrong.
Someone would rise to the top, right?
Yeah, and there are way too many dimensions. I mean, as Cam was talking about, you'd actually probably want to run against all mastery builds.
That's true. That's a good point.
All boosts. You'd want to know if it's against a linked node, and what are the right answers in those situations. And it gets to a point, I think, where a lot of people focus on, okay, I've got my Ghost. Now I'm going to get my Blade, my Corvus, and they stack up these damage champions, and then a new challenge comes out, and yeah, this last one was Ghost to Corvus and Aegon. But I remember a while back when, I'm forgetting who it was, but the answer at the time was like, if you have a Magneto, you're going to not die on that instant L3. It was Vision getting his L3 immediately.
Yes.
Gwenpool wasn't really available at the time, and you were an idiot if you had Luke Cage. So
yeah,
nobody had diversified to these. You had all of your damage champions, but then you get to a point where you're going to be able to handle that content. Start getting the weirdos that do interesting stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think diversifying the roster, I mean, it's not only important, but it's just fun, really to be able to do multiple things. I think a lot of people, especially the newcomers to the game, they just get locked into the damage. They just get locked into who's the best rank up, and they just don't stop to think. I think there's a few red flag champions to avoid, maybe, and everyone else is kind of fair game. You'll find a way to beat the content eventually. I don't know.
And I liked how you were talking a bit about what Cam was bringing up with the wanting to find the simulations and the right type of way to use a character, not just their actions and who to rank up, but the masteries that work well with them. And I think that people like us are maybe playing a different game where that's the fun part to us, is figuring out how to do something efficiently and how to do something that's where I get the most satisfaction, is that content was hard, but I had prepared for it earlier. I had a character that I built out that not everybody else would have, and was able to defeat it that way.
Yes, and hopefully they go that route. I think my wish is when they have the urge to move to 7 stars, they augment the 6 stars somehow with more, I don't know, gear or abilities, something that we can use to tweak more and add more flexibility, more min-maxing, etc.
Gonna get me ranting here, but that's one of the things when it moved to 6 stars, I was like, this is fantastic. They can only release champions that make sense at this level and deal with the fact that they're just dumping a bunch of crap on us with all these other ones. And the fact that they just keep filling out the 6-star roster with all of the champions is really disappointing.
In fact, it's every single champion is 6-star champion. Or all the new ones. They don't wait to see how they perform at lower levels.
And it would make sense. You look at something like Colossus. There was an opportunity when they moved to 5 stars to never make him 1. And then what they could have done when the next Deadpool came out would be release a new Colossus, like they're going to be doing with Captain Marvel, and have it only be available at the levels that the other one is not. And then there'd nobody complaining about their existing Colossus, and the character would get to live on.
Interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting strategy. Yeah, freeze them. If they're not working, just freeze them where they are, Exactly. But what happens is that would increase our chances of pulling good characters.
Can't have that, right?
We cannot have that.
It's disappointing because I've been kind of revitalized in the game. I was falling out of it. And then right before New Year's, I got Aegon, dumb luck, and then got an awakening gem for him for New Year's and started loving the game again. It was fun. It was a character that was actually really fun, and that is what you need. You can't have, I get the whole gambling part of it and kind of drawing people in, but there isn't really a point where you say, I've had enough fun. And yeah, there's a point where you're like, I want this guy, I'm going to keep trying to pull him, but there's other ways they can do that and get the money from that without having this just weighted disappointment on people that months turned into 6-star Colossus.
Yeah, I have this just gut feeling that there's better ways to monetize this game for longevity. The casino model is very frustrating. I wish we could do. I wish there was ways to get the champion you want, and then the monetization part was getting them to maybe look and feel the way you want, rather than just luck on who gets the strongest tier champions and who gets the lowest. I think I heard Brian say once, if 2 people started the game and on their first premium crystal somebody pulled a 4-star Corvus and their buddy pulled a 2-star Colossus, it's just that's gonna be a totally different game experience. One guy might quit just right off the bat. This isn't fun. I don't know.
I get that the gambling method is how there's tons of money in that, and I think they can continue to do that and build that money. But the restricting of fun that happens is really hurting them, I think, more than anything. And I do believe they understand the psychology, and I think they really know how to make money. Obviously, every time you hear somebody complaining about that offer was awful, it's just somebody not understanding that that's what Kabam is doing. They're making you say that a $50 offer for some potions is terrible, so that when you buy a $10 offer, you think you got a good deal, and you just paid $10 for digital stuff. And you're like, that was an awesome deal.
Yeah, they don't understand that it doesn't cost Kabam anything. They're not bringing their vegetables to the market. They're not. The vegetables aren't spoiling. That deal just evaporates, and they'll try it again some other time.
It just makes you feel better about the next because that one was awful. I know you had a couple questions about the stats applying. The base attack is definitely the thing where pretty much everything else becomes a multiplier of that. That's almost across the board. You see stuff with things like actually bleed is a good example where, in effect, bleed is a multiplier after the multiplier of your attack buffs.
Yeah.
So if there was a boost that said you get...
Does it apply to all bleeds, or is it just some bleeds?
So there's
like Blaze bleeds, Blaze parry bleeds.
So there's kind of differences as far as sorry, I didn't mean it as in boosts to bleeds. I meant more of the if I'm hitting somebody for 1,000 damage, and then I can hit them for 1,000 damage, but also apply 30% of a bleed. That 30% is going to be off of my current attack, not off of my base attack. So that 1,300 damage that I will do would be as if there was a boost for 30% of attack that was not applied like a Fury. Because if my base was 500 and I boosted up to 1,000, then if I tried to get an extra 30% on top of it, I would be at, 1150. But because it's a bleed as a separate damage calculation, it applies after
all that.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Is that those are the green numbers in abilities? That scale with attack normally, right? I mean,
so the green numbers are
them, right?
Yeah, I mean, green numbers are anything that comes from a scale or that they just happen to color green. Yeah, those numbers don't mean a ton.
Okay.
But the idea of something that's applied after an attack or in conjunction with, so your actual physical hitting them is one thing. If there's a bleed, and that bleed was for the, so if you had 100% bleed damage along with 100% regular attack, and then you got a 20% boost, the 20% boost to your attack is going to not be 20% because it's applied to your base. And it's also not going to be 20% on your bleed. But if you didn't have bleed and you got a boost that gave you a 20% damage bleed, you'd actually do 20% more damage. Not your base plus times 20%.
Okay, gotcha. So it would be better to have the bleed already, the bleed ability, and then boost your attack. Rather than the other way around.
Well, no, so it's the difference between if I could boost my champion by 20%, or I could give him a attack that does 20% degen, in addition to the regular attack. The 20% degen would allow me to do 120% damage. The 20% boost to my regular character, if I was Stark Spidey, would only be 105% because Stark was already way boosted up. But if I could give Stark that degen, he would actually do 120% damage.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's kind of how Red Hulk does his auxiliary damage.
Exactly. So like Red Hulk's auxiliary damage, bleeds, degens, anything that's applied auxiliary to the physical hit is a more effective way of adding on damage than a Fury or something like that.
Okay. That's interesting. That helps that helps you read champion abilities. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Figuring out if they're good or not. Which we do often. We try.
What'd you decide? Are they good?
They're
some of them are pretty good.
Senor
Some of them
Slug,
are really bad.
They are good. The champions are good. We have decided. Some of them are. God, I'd say we have like a 66% hit rate, maybe 75%. I don't know. We're okay, but we miss a few. Like Diablo, I thought we got wrong.
Yeah, Diablo and Venom the Duck we got wrong for sure.
Yeah, Venom was way better than we thought. Diablo's way worse than we thought.
Yeah.
Venom's awesome. Venom the Duck.
Yeah.
I die so much in Alliance Quest just trying to build him and have so much fun doing it.
Yeah, I think having that control. I don't have him yet, but having the control over your build is pretty fun, huh? Like fight to fight.
It really is.
He's got to be very survivable too, because I did a random dungeons match the other day, which is always risky. And the guy had 3 champions. One of them was Venom the Duck. The first 2 were dead after the first champion, and he ran the gauntlet with me. 5 rooms with Venom the Duck as a 6-star. I was holy crap.
I did one build where I gave him 4 regens and just fought the boss with both bleed and poison up, and he just healed through it. And then I just L3'd and healed again. He was fine.
Wow.
Yeah. He's awesome.
What is the diminishing? Okay, so that's an example of true diminishing returns, right? The way they've made him. And what is the percentage that gets reduced? The potency?
20%.
20%. Okay, seems fair, I guess. You can have 12 buffs. I think when we saw that though, we thought it was terrible. 20%. Oh, it's useless. So I guess what that means is the first regen heals you for 100, the second regen heals you for 80, and the third heals you for 60.
I'm pretty sure I haven't actually verified that though.
Okay, but that's okay. That sounds like about right. That is, yeah. He seems fun. He's the go gadget champion. You can just kind of choose what you want to do.
All right, I think that does it for me. I've been juggling a bunch of things at the same time, and listening along to you guys. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I want more people to jump on the theory crafting bandwagon and actually do analysis on the game. There's a great calculator that Mr. Slug has created for stats to percentage calculators. We can put a link to that in the description, I hope.
Yeah, I can manage that.
Yeah, I gotta put it back up. I took it down the other day.
It's up right now, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Maybe I didn't then. I have no idea what's going on. It's fine.
I had that at some point. Cam, you'll have to send it again to me because I remember messing around with it one day.
So it's great. Yeah, this calculator is great, and like basically all of my simulations come from here. Like they all start from here, and they go to every hit kind of simulation kind of deals.
With all of those numbers, shouldn't you be able to calculate the theoretical low end and high end and average damage of a champion over X hits?
You didn't really get into it, but like armor and resistance throws some interesting wrenches.
Oh man, those wrenches.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. God. Yes, we didn't get into armor and resistance. Is there any like 2 cents you have on that? You don't have to go on long, but that is interesting stuff.
I don't know what the hell they were doing with that. It's all over the place. The mess we saw when Colossus would heal people when he was armor broken.
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah, Cam, you mentioned that one time.
Yeah, his damage scaled on armor, and if you broke his armor, he'd start healing you.
Wow. Because you were doing negative damage?
Yep, you were doing negative damage, so they had that in there. And the way they handle when armor gets negative, I think I've had 3 posts saying 3 different things about how it works, and I keep coming back and saying, nope, I was wrong, there's this factor now.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the things part of the reason I was actually intending on taking it down was because I've lost a lot of confidence in it, and that I really want to sit down, spend some time, get those numbers up there, look at what the theoretical numbers should be, and make sure I'm hitting that when I attack someone.
Right.
And it's close, but there's some things that are telling me that we're missing a few things. And I think it has a lot to do with what I was saying about how, actually, now that it's up, people can check this. But if you go to someone like Rocket Raccoon and look at it, Raccoon, and you look at the crit rating boost he gets, or cruelty boost, I forget which it is, and you check him at different ranks, and you run it in the calculator against whatever whatever challenger rating he happens to be, it's going to be a consistent number. So that the fact that you ranked him up, there was no change in the actual percentage of crit damage.
Right, okay. So but that would be some consistency, right? I mean...
So the fear I have is that something like his crit damage isn't using rating at all, and they just ran it backwards through the calculator to display it to us because they told us rating was everything.
Oh, no. Say it ain't so.
That's my fear. I hate that I'm kind of throwing out conspiracy theories, but I'm concerned about what this data means.
Some of these things are validatable, but they just require some time and effort on your part?
Correct.
Okay. Well,
maybe
enjoy.
I'll be back.
I think you seem to be like a lone soldier in this. I'm surprised that there's not more people out there working on this.
Everybody else that's close seems to want to cheat.
Oh, that does make sense. Yeah.
I hate that. So.
Yeah. Well, it's human nature.
Yeah, it's a fear of if I try to maybe bring anybody else in on this, I don't know where it'll go, and I don't want to be the the guardian of it or anything. That's not my job, but
yeah.
I just don't want to unleash it either. So.
Right. No, that makes sense. I mean, well, it just depends on the maturity of the individual, you know, but the urge to cheat is super high in video games.
Yeah.
I mean, cheat codes are everywhere. All your base R belong to us.
It utterly ruins the game if you get into any of those betas. You have so much fun for like 30 seconds ranking everybody up, and then you're like, oh, what the hell am I doing? Why am I playing this? They're just winning everything.
I had that experience. Yeah, I didn't want to play. I did that in the beta, and it was mostly for testing. And then I tested a few things, learned what I wanted to learn, but had no desire to just, run over the content. Well, anyway, Mr. Slug, thanks very much thanks for letting us pick your brain. I'm a little all over the place, and I apologize for that. Sometimes
me too. Don't worry.
All right, guys, I'm gonna sign off. I'll talk
too.
to you guys later. It was very nice to meet you.
Same here.
DickSlug, and Cam, I'll hit you up later. We have a lot of content we've been making lately, and there's more coming. Captain Marvel's
coming.
Yeah.
Act 6.
I just started listening to, so I didn't know you guys had one, and Cam told me about it and gave me a link, and so I'm going back. It's nice. I like it.
Oh, do you? Don't feel pressured, man. We just talk.
No,
we don't even know anybody's listening.
No, I mean, if you guys were assholes, I wouldn't have mentioned anything about it at all. I'm like, yeah, cool. This was great.
Appreciate that.